Which draft pick do we regret the most, or what would we have done differently if we were in charge of the Dallas Cowboys? All that and more in this episode of the Locked On Cowboys podcast.
You are Locked On Cowboys, your daily Dallas Cowboys podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Locked on Cowboys. Locked on Cowboys.
Welcome back to the Locked On Cowboys podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We want to thank you for making us your first listen of the day. We are free and available on all platforms. I am Marcus Mosher. You can follow me on Twitter at Marcus_Mosher. He is Landon McCool. Check him out on Twitter at McCoolBCB. Landon, how's it going today, sir?
Good, except you apparently didn't get my memo about it being a business attire work.
Business casual?
Friday. No,
Yeah.
Not even business casual. I guess I am casual. Marcus thought this was a jacket, which I guess you can tell, but it's not, and I'm not wearing a suit, so we're still keeping it casual on Fridays, just so anyone was worried.
For me, my dressing up is, am I going to wear a sweatshirt or a t-shirt today? Sweatshirt's a little bit nicer, but yeah.
It's a little classy.
Well, I will say, my wife, for like my birthday and Christmas, she'll buy me dress clothes, which are sweatpants and sweatshirts. I think it's great. But,
Work from home life.
I know, it's pretty great. I don't know the last time I put on like jeans, but all right, let's get to you guys' Twitter questions. First one from at @Trashman_talks. Can you guys talk about the undrafted free agents a bit in depth? Yes, but we're gonna do that on Monday and Tuesday. Landon and I have picked out about 6 guys that we really like that have a chance to make the roster. So we thought we would kind of take the weekend to watch them, write up scouting reports. So please tune in Monday and Tuesday. We're gonna break these guys down like the draft picks. And I don't know about you, Landon, but I've already watched a couple of these guys, and I'm pretty excited.
Yeah, a couple of them I knew about going into the draft because I thought they might be targets. So yeah, definitely excited to talk about some of those guys.
All right, next question from Zach. Who are you the most disappointed that the Cowboys didn't draft when they had the chance to?
Poe from Mercer.
Fullback. Yep.
I thought for sure that he was going to end up a Cowboy and was going to end up being, the kind of McGovern role. I guess I don't really view it so much like that. I know a lot of people get pet cats and guys that they really like. I certainly kind of, have preferences and that sort of thing. I don't know. I honestly, the Poe guy was the one who that made me the most upset. I'm not gonna lie.
7th round. Center. For me, it's Jermaine Johnson. I know I like Jermaine Johnson more than you, and probably more than most people. But I felt like he was a gift to be there at 24. A lot of people had him going much higher. He filled a position of need. He fit the requirements that Dan Quinn likes in a defensive end. He's long. He was productive. He was athletic. I felt like if you do that draft and you take Jermaine Johnson in the first round, I just have a feeling the board falls better for you the rest of the way, because now you're not, I don't want to say reaching on Sam Williams because I don't know if that's the right word, but you're probably picking a better player or talent at 56, and you still probably can get Jalen Tolbert at 88. I just think it would have worked out better for Dallas.
Yeah, I mean, I think you like Jermaine Johnson a lot more than I do. I think he was way artificially pushed up. I viewed him more as I think if I had a board, I probably would have Sam Williams and Jermaine Johnson's tags touching in the 3rd round. So
yeah, see, I like Johnson as a top 15 player in this draft. So I thought if having him available at 24 was a no-brainer. But apparently the Cowboys didn't see it that way. We'll see. This is why we love the draft so much. Somebody's going to be right and somebody's going to be wrong, right?
Or at least that's what we're going to tell everybody. Yeah. That's right.
Yeah. All right. I do have an interesting couple questions about Tyler Smith here. This one from @RashDog15. If Tyler Smith didn't have technical issues, how would he compare to Rashawn Slater or Penei Sewell as prospects?
I mean, that's a pretty big if, right?
Yes, and I think we understand that. But if the technique was good,
I think he compares very favorably to Rashawn Slater, right? I mean, kind of actually,
he's quite a bit bigger than Slater, right?
Yeah, I mean, he actually maybe more than
right?
Sewell. Yeah, probably. Yeah. I mean, if he was technically sound and at that frame, he's a top 15 pick. Like the physical traits and the tools and all that. I mean, like literally the thing that's holding him back. Well, maybe he's not a top 15 pick because he goes to Tulsa and that might,
But at the
but
same
no,
time, Ike Ekwonu went 6th.
Yeah, I was just gonna dispute my own point. I think he's a top 15 pick if he's got no technical issues, right? I think the physical traits, the demeanor, the personality, all those things are in line with what you're looking for. It's more about the ability or the technique, the consistency of the technique. That's the issue.
I think he's a top 10, 12 pick, even if the technique is just, let's say, average, right? And it's not, he has 5 penalties rather than 16, right? He probably is he's probably a pretty high pick because we've seen guys like this go really high before. The perfect example to me is like Greg Robinson, who was at Auburn, right? I don't even know how many years ago that was, but a super big, powerful, athletic tackle guard. He went, I think, was it number 2 overall. So he could have certainly went much, much higher if the technique was a little better. And maybe this is some of the value the Cowboys are getting, because I think I read that his Tulsa teammates expected him to go back to school this year, work on some of that. And he kind of declared, and because the NFL said, hey, you're going to be a pretty high pick, go get NFL coaching rather than, wasting your time here. If he goes back to school and he cleans up some of that stuff, even a little bit, you're probably talking about a top 10, top 12 pick.
Yeah, I think he made the right decision because I do think that he's going to, get the better coaching soon, and he'll be being paid by it. But I do agree that if he was, because I don't know, man, even if he goes back to Tulsa, is he going to get the coaching he needs to get better?
And that's probably
I don't know
the
that
problem,
he is.
right?
Yeah.
You're just another year older, which I don't care for offensive linemen, but might as well just go to the NFL, get through your rookie contract, and we'll see where you're at.
Yeah, absolutely. Go start getting good coaching immediately. Start working on your craft in the off season. And being paid to do it. That's the way to go.
I got another Tyler Smith question I want to get to, but before we do that, I want to tell you guys about Blue Nile. Are you looking for fine jewelry for that special woman in your life, but you're having trouble choosing? Blue Nile has jewelry experts on hand 24/7, available via phone or chat to help you find a memorable gift at every single budget. On BlueNile.com, you can easily navigate thousands of fine jewelry options at every single price point. And this Mother's Day, give mom something she'll treasure forever with fine jewelry from BlueNile.com. And Locked On Cowboys listeners will get $50 off $500. This podcast exclusive is good only through Mother's Day. Use promo code LOCKEDON. That is promo code LOCKEDON. We also want to tell you guys about BetOnline. BetOnline.net is your number one source for all of your betting stats and sports info. Find all the latest sports developments, league reviews, and news, including this year's basketball playoffs, Major League Baseball, and this week's Kentucky Derby. Underrated sports weekend with Kentucky Derby, basketball, baseball, hockey playoffs. BetOnline is your continued source for all of your sports wagering needs, including live betting, the playoffs, esports, and more. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends in action. BetOnline, where the game starts. All right, next one. From @Clayton5370, I'm seeing lots of comments that treat Tyler Smith as an immediate upgrade at left guard over Connor Williams. Don't you think that's a lot to ask, considering Williams was a 4-year starter and played tougher competition in college?
Yeah, I think it is a lot to ask. But I also think that this guy has better physical tools than Connor Williams did. Especially in the sense that he's already significantly stronger, I would imagine, than Connor Williams was. But yeah, if you're asking me are we too quick to discount how good Connor Williams is? Yes, I've been saying that since last season. Yeah. I think that the NFL, his contract kind of showed that. He got paid a good contract to go start at guard for Miami. So, I think that it could potentially be a learning curve. We have no idea exactly where Tyler Smith is right now. I think, we need to see exactly what we get in training camp to kind of get a real gauge for where he is. But I don't think it's unrealistic to think that he may not be as good as Connor Williams to start the season. I think that's not unrealistic at all.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's going to be parts of his game that are better than Connor Williams right away. Like, I just think he's going to be better at moving guys off the ball, right? I think you're going to see probably more highlight blocks and stuff that people post on Twitter and get a million retweets about, right? But if you're talking about like game-to-game consistency, Tyler Smith could struggle because I witnessed this firsthand last year with the Raiders with Alex Leatherwood, who started 4 years at Alabama, really long, athletic, went from tackle to guard in the NFL, and was bad. Like, these offensive linemen take a long time, especially when you're not super technically sound. It takes a while. So I would caution Cowboys fans to, this isn't going to be a Zach Martin or Tyron Smith thing where they come in and you're getting Pro Bowl level play. It might look pretty sloppy for a while.
Let's also remember that Tyron Smith wasn't a Pro Bowler when he came in either.
No.
I mean, he started on the right side and he struggled early on. So I think that, that's, we tend to kind of, change history in our minds when we like a player and pretend like it was always kind of smooth going, but that's not necessarily the case.
Yeah.
So there's definitely going to be learning curve here. That's kind of how it is with all positions in the NFL. I think the difference here is that he's going to have, because of his strength and his stoutness inside, and I think because again he's kind of hopefully getting some experience on either side of him. I think that will hopefully help him kind of mitigate some of the early issues that he might have had.
Yeah. All right. Next question comes from John Rodriguez. He wants to know, does Tristan Hill make the team this year?
I'll say yes, but I'm not confident. I don't think it's like he's a sure thing lock.
Not at all.
But yeah, I would say yes for now. But I certainly don't think it's a sure thing, because if he needs to play better, there's a lot of bodies at the position at this point. Tristan Hill is not any of these coaches' guys. So I think that he's not going to get the kind of deferential treatment that he may have gotten last year, where they're still trying to give him another shot. I think last year may have further kind of pushed him into the doghouse at different points because it took him so long to come back, from the injury situation.
And then he came back, and then he got suspended a few games into the season.
Yeah, So no, I definitely wouldn't call him a lock by any stretch of the imagination.
He's going to have a great camp.
Yeah, I don't think he's like a long shot to make the team, but I would say it's 50-50, easy.
Yeah, I mean,
at least.
Let's be honest here too. If it comes down to like John Ridgeway or Tristan Hill, the Cowboys could see, hey, Ridgeway is a cheaper because he was later pick. We've got 4 years of control versus 1 year of Tristan Hill. We're in the last year of Tristan Hill's deal. We'll see. He's only played 500 snaps for the Cowboys over 3 years. So it's we really don't know what we're getting, but it wouldn't shock me either though, Landon, if now that he's, further removed from the ACL injury, and he's in a defense with, I think actually it's going to be good for his skill set if he has a really good camp. Like, that won't shock me.
Yeah. That wouldn't surprise me either. I think I that's why I truly think it's a 50-50 proposition. I have no idea what to expect for Tristan Hill. I think we could get anything from a kind of, the sort of consistent, what we've gotten a lot of is the kind of on again, off again inconsistency, sure. Or are we going to get a guy who's kind of fully grown into his position now and is playing at a higher level? I think both are equally likely scenarios.
He's still only 24 years old.
Yeah.
So he's pretty young. You're really hoping in year 4 it clicks, but we'll see. And if it doesn't, I mean, they've got a lot of bodies up there with DeVille Gallimore. They've got Osa, Ridgeway. I mean, they've got defensive ends that they can even kick inside with Basham and Golston. So we'll see. All right, next question. And this is a really important one. It comes from Frank. He wants to know, is there any reason to trust Joe Philbin to develop guys in the offensive line? Is there anything in his coaching history that makes you hopeful he can get some of these young guys ready to play?
Yeah, this whole talking point has gone too far as far as I'm concerned. Look, I am of the mind that offensive lineman development happens 95% in the off season. It doesn't happen. It doesn't
Look at
happen during
Terrence
the
Steele.
season.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, look, yeah, like it's and that's the Terrence Steele thing is my favorite part of this argument because whenever people bring this up, I bring up Terrence Steele and they're like, Duke Merriweather is the one who developed Terrence Steele, and I'm like, yeah, exactly. Like that's the point. Like these guys don't. The CBA does not allow for enough time on the field with these coaches for the coaches to be the ones developing these players. If you want these players to develop, they have to spend time on their own with these coaches to kind of get their stuff right. And look, I understand that there's a disconnect between the coaching staff and the scouting department, and the scouting department has a very vocal mouthpiece that works on the radio. But I also think that there is more to the offensive line room than just Joe Philbin. I think Jeff Blesko, right?
Yeah.
Is a very talented guy. He's developed people at a couple different spots. Philbin himself has had experience with those guys developing. And again, the development part happens in the off season. The development part happens when you're in your off season, you're working with your primary coaches. What I want Philbin to be doing, and what most of his job description is to design the protections, to help design the run game, and help make sure that the execution of that and the alignment. Now, there are things that Philbin's done that are ridiculous. The area that he can have an effect is stop moving guys in and out of the lineup. Get a consistent five and then have them play together. That stuff is on him. But this whole idea that like players can't develop under Philbin, when I've sat there and watched Terrence Steele go from what he was last year, despite Joe Philbin, to 2 years ago to that last year, and frankly, what we saw from Tyler Biadasz just from the beginning of the season to the end of the season, I thought was good development. So I have a hard time with this talking point because it doesn't really, it's not grounded in anything that makes sense to me.
I will say this, in regards to Philbin, it's time, right? It's year 3 for him. He's got his guys in there now between Terrence Steele, who he wanted to play over Lyle Collins. Lyle's gone, right? They drafted Josh Ball in 2021. They drafted Tyler Biadasz in 2020. They drafted Tyler Smith in 2022. Like, these are his guys now that he's kind of wanted. And it sounds like he wanted some bigger, more physical offensive linemen. They drafted Matt Farniak, was it last year, right? Mm-hmm. These are the guys that he's wanted. It's time for this offensive line to start developing some of these guys. Does it mean they have to be the best offensive line in the league? No. But it can't be the way it was at points last year where it just looked absolutely atrocious, right? Where it just looked like mass confusion up front.
Yeah, I mean, I think you just didn't have guys that were comfortable playing with the guys that were around them. I mean, they kind of moved in and out. Like I said, the consistency thing with having a consistent starting five is a huge thing that the offensive line coach can have an effect on, and that specifically was something that he did have an issue. But if we're talking about developing individual players, that's mostly on the players themselves, to be honest, and their work ethic in the offseason and their willingness to work to better their craft consistently throughout the offseason.
Yeah. All right. Next question. This one comes from it's from El Shungo, I believe. Will the Cowboys look for additional help at cornerback? The Kelvin Joseph situation is still unknown, and a suspension by the league could be possible. So do you see the Cowboys going out and signing a cornerback? There's an expectation that James Bradbury is going to be released by the Giants. Not interested?
No. He was not great last year at all. He fell off a cliff. There's a reason that $10 million is not a lot of money for a good cornerback, and they are desperate to cut him in New York. So
it's not a great fit for him anyways. He's not the type of corner that they typically look for.
I also think that where are you going to fit this cornerback that you're signing? Because the room is pretty full at this point. Yeah. I don't imagine that they're going to, try to like get more bodies in here. They have 3 or 4 young guys that they think they can play. I mean, you've got a starting 3 that you feel solid even without
that you
Kelvin
had
Joseph.
all year last year, right? That your defense was good with all year.
What do you mean?
I mean, you had Trayvon Diggs, Jordan Lewis, and Anthony Brown. Like, you played all year with those guys.
Yeah.
And they're all coming back.
Yeah, exactly. So you don't need to go out and replace a guy that never replaced his guy. You know, like it's Kelvin Joseph. The expectation was that he was going to step up and take the job. I still think he will, but if he gets suspended, what's the backup plan? Same plan as last year. Same guys that came back that were the starters last year. So
Deshaun Wright and Deron Bland.
Deron Bland, yeah.
And maybe you bring back, Maurice Kennedy last year, who played a couple, so that to me is more likely than going out and getting a Joe Hayden or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, because look, you can go pay a bunch of money for a guy who 50-50 may be as good as he was last year, which isn't great, or washed. Or you could just pay the, 3rd round salary of Deshaun Wright, whatever that is, and pennies. He could be equally bad as the guy that was washed last year or better. So I just think that there's no reason to go spend that money on a guy that's
not now, at least. Now, if you get an injury to Diggs and Brown, like in camp,
well, that's completely different.
That's
different, of course.
Right? I just don't see the need at this stage. There's other positions on the roster that I think you could argue, a veteran would make sense. I'm not sure corner is that spot.
We have to remember this point of the season up until at least the second preseason game. It's more important to see what you have in these young players than it is to try to secure some veteran who will likely just be on the street when you need him anyways. And if he's not, there'll be an equivalent of him because we still got to get through cuts. There's still going to be a 3rd and 4th wave of free agency. Yep. There's just no urgency to sign veteran guys at positions where you have a ton of youth right now because you want to see what that youth does. Now, there are holes. Like if you have a hole to fill, like you don't have enough numbers, go sign a free agent. But not at a position like cornerback where you're overflowing with young guys that you want to see get better and see what they can do.
I want those guys to take as many reps as possible in
absolutely
mini camp and training camp.
I want Jordan Lewis, frankly, if his toes hurt, sit out, Jordan. Like we don't, you know what I'm saying? We know what you're doing. We know who you are. I want to see what Wright does. I want to see what Bland does. I want to see what Joseph does. Like those are important things to see in the training camp.
I 100% agree. All right, one more quick break to tell you guys about Built Bar. Summer is coming, and with summer, you're going to need some food to take with you on the go, whether that's when you're going on your daily walk or you're going to the golf course or you're going on vacation. Built Bar is the absolute perfect snack to take with you on the go. They are covered in 100% real chocolate, and they only contain 130 calories. Compare that to your average candy bar that has 240 calories. It's not even a competition. Go to Built.com right now to get all of your favorites, including banana cream pie, raspberry double chocolate, and my current favorite, peanut butter. They are all delicious, and they've got new flavors coming out all the time. So go to Built.com and use promo code LOCK15 to get 15% off your next order. Use promo code LOCK15 for 15% off at Built.com. My sister actually called me the other day. She said, "Hey, Marcus, do you have any boxes of Built Bar that you can send me down to Nashville?" And I texted her back, Lock15. That's all I did. She wanted me to send her some boxes. So
I gotta say, we need to make an effort the next time you do that read that you kind of really emphasize the summer is coming, but in the tone of winter is coming from Game of
Thrones. Yes,
summer is coming.
Yeah. It doesn't feel like we have not had a nice day in forever over here. So
you can visit LA. It's kind of nice.
Next question. This is from Evan. What are your pre-training camp feelings about the team as a whole?
I think there's a lot of wait and see at this point. I think that's the thing about having such a very young team right now. And that's the Cowboys have a very, very young team, is that they've got a whole bunch of picks from last year. They've got all the picks that they had this year. And all of them are going to come into training camp, and we have no idea what any of either last year's players are going to look like or this year's players are going to look like. The development that happens between your rookie and your first veteran season is the steepest learning curve, or the steepest ability rise usually that happens, because it's your first year being away from school. You're a full-time professional athlete, and like I just mentioned, you now have the ability, a lot more so, to pay for better training in the offseason, to invest in your body, and to get better. And you're still kind of in a prime age because you're still young. So all those guys that got picked last year that, we kind of saw just a little bit of, the Josephs, the Nashawn Wrights, the McQuamus, we saw obviously Parsons, but he'll even get better than he was. All those guys, Bahana, they're gonna take some sort of step in improvement. So it's hard to know what those players are gonna look like. So I guess I know this is a kind of a cop-out answer, but honestly, this is one of the years, more than the last 5 or 10, really, that it's really kind of hard to know exactly what this team is going to look like, because I would say they have as much youth and unknown kind of youth as they've had in their team in a long time.
I went to go look up something. Just the kind of ages of the team. So you have a couple older veterans, right? And it's Zach Martin and Tyron Smith. Now, those guys actually aren't as old as you would think. They're like 31, 32.
31, yeah.
Yeah. DeMarcus Lawrence just turned 30. Do you know who the 4th oldest starter is on this team right now?
Oh, is it Jaron Kearse?
He's close. He's actually a couple years younger than somebody else. But Jaron Kearse is the fifth oldest starter on the team.
Is it Dak?
It's actually Anthony Brown, who the Cowboys.
Oh, yes, of course. But
that's the point. Is like Anthony Brown and Dak were drafted in 2016, and like they are your veteran guys on this team. Ezekiel Elliott's the same way. Like guys that you drafted 6 years ago are suddenly the oldest players on the team. Like it's just an incredibly young team.
Yeah, and that just, again, it kind of contributes to the unknown here, and that's why I've tried to kind of temper people's jumping off the cliff, is that it's just a bunch of unknown. Much like there was last year. I mean, frankly, we had way more doubts at this team than we probably should have going into training camp, because the team was way more talented than we realized.
I feel like I'm being way too positive. I need to cut this out.
But you've already been called out on Twitter for being more positive than the Athletic podcast. So
that was really funny. Let's just think back to where we were at this point last year, right?
Yeah,
we had no idea what Dak was going to look like in week 1, how healthy he was going to be. Was he even going to do anything in training camp? I mean, he ended up not doing a ton in training camp for a different reason, right? He had a different injury, but like we had no idea what he was going to look like after that injury, right?
There were local Dallas media folks who were saying that Dak would never play football again.
Would be a June 1 cut.
Let's remember who said those things, and maybe not listen to those people anymore.
It's true. Yeah, but so you had that. There was basically some real questions at cornerback, because remember, you had Trevon Diggs coming off of a really up and down rookie season, which he got hurt.
Anthony Brown is a bum, right? Like we all were like, we got to get Anthony Brown off the field, right?
And remember, at the time, again, at this exact time last year, your safeties were DeMonte Casey and Donovan Wilson, right? They didn't even have Malik Hooker on the roster yet.
Or Kearse, right? Did they sign Kearse at this point last year?
They did sign Kearse, but we thought of him as a guy that was borderline going to make the team. It's a special teams guy. So there was a lot of questions. There was even questions about, like, is Lyle Collins going to be in shape to play? Like, what's he going to look like? Terrence Steele was a disaster at right tackle the year before. If they have to play Terrence Steele, is it going to ruin their whole season again? Like, there was a lot of questions. This team obviously has a lot of questions as well. I think you're worried a little bit about maybe the talent drop off, but I don't think there's many more questions. I think we were shocked at how well they played early in the season last year.
Yeah, I mean, I think if I was less shocked, maybe having seen some of it in training camp, because basically my stance in training camp, if you remember, was this team seems pretty good, but I'm afraid to kind of go all in on it, because it felt like it was fool's gold. And then we come into the Tampa Bay game, and they confirm it. Hey, this is a pretty good team that we're dealing with. So Yeah, I
By
have
the
a
way,
hard
that
time.
week was a lot of emotions because they played so well against Tampa, and 7 days later, Lyle Collins got suspended for 5 games. Michael Gallup was
Yeah,
out for 2 months.
that's
Randy
right.
Gregory got COVID. I mean, it was tough. You know,
It was.
I don't know. I don't know if I feel any worse about where they're at. I don't know if I feel better. I think I feel probably about the same. I think they've got questions, but nothing that
I
I think is going to hold them back maybe from being a contender.
I think the point is that right now we don't know. You know, it's like even the people that know this team the most, even the people that are in the building, that are the coaches, they don't know yet. They got to get these guys on the field before we have any kind of idea. We could talk about the potential of all these guys all we want, but sometimes these guys exceed our expectations.
Yep.
Sometimes they don't meet them, but sometimes they're better than we expected.
Yep.
So we just need to allow for a certain amount of the process to go before we're like, ready to completely write off this season or crown ourselves champions, whichever side of the coin you're on.
Last question from Thomas. What 2020 draft pick development is the most important to the Cowboys' success this year? I'll give you the 2020 draft picks in case you forgot. CeeDee Lamb, Trevon Diggs, Neville Gallimore, Reggie Robinson, Tyler Biotish, Bradley and I, Ben DiNucci.
Ben DiNucci. I mean, he's got to get that hat game. No. I mean, there's no doubt in my mind it's CeeDee Lamb.
It's CeeDee.
You know, the whole point of this situation, I think, was let's clear the way for CeeDee Lamb to really fly and take off.
We need to find out, right?
Yeah, we need to find out, because we know that we don't like, I mean, I'm speaking as the front office. We know we don't like Cooper, or, we feel like that they were getting inconsistencies with him. We feel like CeeDee's ready to take the next step. Let's see what we can do here.
It's
I think
huge
he's
year for CeeDee. I mean,
absolutely enormous. We aren't talking about it, frankly, enough, honestly, because
just from a contract standpoint too. Like he is a receiver drafted in the first round, so you do have the 5th-year option. But like, if he doesn't become the number 1 receiver that I think you and I both think he can be, we're having a real conversation about, do the Cowboys need to draft a receiver early next year and just let CeeDee kind of ride out his contract? And even then, we could have a conversation like, do you pick up his 5th-year option? Do you want to pay him $17 million on the 5th-year option? I don't think we're gonna have to worry about that. I honestly think he's going to be just fine, but it's a huge year for him.
I would actually frame it in another way, because CeeDee is already the wide receiver 1, and that's what I've been trying to tell people about the Cooper thing forever, is that y'all keep talking like Cooper was wide receiver 1. Cooper stopped being wide receiver 1 a long time ago, maybe even before last season. It's been CeeDee Lamb. And so the question is not whether he's wide receiver 1. The question is he an all-pro type of wide receiver? Is he a Pro Bowl type wide receiver? What sort of contract are we talking about here? Are we talking about him making the kind of money that those top guys are making? Like, because if he had a solid wide receiver 1 season last year. I think if you go look at the numbers, I mean, they're on par with what you expect there. Now, did he have an all-pro season? No, he did not. So the question is he ready to take that step? Is he ready to become a dominant force in the league? And if that's the case, then the contract negotiation situation is gonna heat up.
So I mean, I'm just looking at the 5th-year option now, because he made a Pro Bowl last year. You're looking at like $19 to $20 million guaranteed for the 2024 season that the Cowboys are going to have to decide. I don't think it's going to be much of a conversation. I think he's going to play to that level.
Yeah.
But he needs to. Like, he has to. And he needs to make this a no-doubt situation for Dallas. We'll see. They obviously need him to be a star.
There were times last year that, he needs to clean things up. He just needs to tighten his game up in general, because there were concentration drops. There were things that happened at times where he wasn't running the right route, it seems like, or he wasn't on the same page with the quarterback. Things that, if he just tightens those things up, suddenly we're talking about a 1,500-yard receiver with 13 touchdowns, as opposed to, I can't remember off the top of my head, but he's something like 1,200 yards or 11
around there.
Yeah. Like that. Yeah. So I think that's the kind of thing that, just like spending the offseason honing his game, to the point where it's refined. And then you'll get a CeeDee Lamb that is kind of fully unleashing all his talents. And I think that's the kind of player the Cowboys are expecting, and that's the kind of player that the Cowboys likely will pay for.
They also need to get him more involved. In 16 games last year, he had 120 targets, which that sounds like a lot, but when you go across the league and you look at like what the Lions, how many targets the Lions gave like Amon-Ra St. Brown, he needs to be the 140, 150 range. Like he just does. And the Cowboys need to do a better job of putting him in a position to get those targets.
And that's probably why you don't have 3 receivers on the team, one of which has a $20 million price tag anymore. I know that that's cruel to and harsh to say, and I don't know if that was necessarily going to be the best decision. Obviously, we'll find out. But that's a big part of the reason why they let Cooper go, is that they wanted to give CeeDee more targets. It doesn't make financial sense while you also still have a Michael Gallup that you want to keep and a guy that's making $20 million. So what do? You get rid of the guy that cost the most, that you felt like wasn't producing at the level that you're paying him. It was a tough decision, but it was a decision made for getting CeeDee more involved in the offense. And I also think that, again, we'll see, but I also think that Pollard will be a beneficiary here as well in the pass game.
Jacoby Myers for the Patriots had more targets than CeeDee Lamb did last year. I mean, Hunter Renfrow had 8 more targets. Landon, there was 9 receivers last year that had 40 or more targets than CeeDee Lamb. That can't happen.
And we I don't want to get into all of this again, but again, think about what was happening with Cooper at the end of the situation there. You felt like you had to get him involved early. You felt like you had to get Cooper catches early in order to, and that was kind of what the book was on him, right? Is that you needed to get him involved early in order to kind of get him into the rhythm of the game. That kind of like, that kind of a job that you have to force in there, that makes it difficult to try to get the ball to the other guy that you're really trying to get the ball to, right? If you're having to force feed Cooper early just so you can have Cooper as part of the game plan and engage later in the game, then that's problematic for trying to get your actual number 1 wide receiver more targets. So yes, I'm excited to see Lamb gets upwards of 140, 150 targets. I think it's time to see exactly what we get out of that.
All right, that is it for today's show. Thank you guys for tuning in. Again, Monday, Tuesday, heavy UDFA show. Always my favorite shows of the year. I always get so excited for the undrafted guys. So make sure you guys tune in for that. Continue to check us out on YouTube. You guys have been loving the videos over there. We post them every single day. Go check out the content over there. You can follow the show on Twitter at Locked On Cowboys. You can follow Landon at McCool BCB. I am at Marcus_Mosher. Enjoy your weekend. See you guys right back here on Monday.
You are Locked On Cowboys, your daily Dallas Cowboys podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Locked on Cowboys.